Welcome to this online virtual workshop on video interviewing presented by Ohio Means Jobs, Stark and Tuscarawas counties. Online interviewing has been around for a while, but with today's changing landscape, it is becoming more and more popular. This workshop will help you navigate through what to expect when you have a video interview. This is especially useful if you haven't been through the process before. If you're asking yourself, is it really worth the effort to learn about video interviewing? Here are some statistics to keep in mind. According to Talent Hub Resourcing, since 2011, video interviews have risen in popularity by 49%, and 6 out of 10 hiring managers use video interviews. Video interviewing is increasing in popularity, and your chances of having one in the future has greatly increased. In this workshop, we want to share information with you about video interviewing to help you prepare and stand out as a great candidate. The sections we will be covering are the purpose of an interview, preparing for the video interview, setting up the environment, interview attire, body language, and ending the interview appropriately. We talk about proper etiquette when interviewing in person, but what about an online interview? Do we follow those same rules? What else should we be aware of? First, the purpose of a video interview is the same as an in-person interview. An employer wants to get to know you to determine if you're the right fit for the position and the organization. Once the interview gets underway, you will find that it has many similarities to interviewing in person. Just like an in-person interview, a video interview is a conversation between you and the employer. The employer wants to look into your experience and background. This is also an opportunity for an employer to check out your communication skills. Remember, the interview is not an interrogation. You're simply having a conversation with the employer about yourself. Preparing for a video interview has similarities to preparing for an in-person interview, but there are some added preparations you will want to be aware of. You want to make sure you've done your research on the company and the position. Visit the company or organization's website or social media platforms. Most times you can get more current information on a social media platform because it's an easy and fast way to get information out to an audience. When you are on the employer's website, make sure to find the mission, vision, and/or value statement. This is important information you will want to know before your interview takes place. It is also important to do some background checking of your own to make sure the company or organization is legitimate. Check out the Better Business Bureau website and take a look at their rating and if they meet standards. This will also tell you if they are accredited. Just like you want to be on time for an in-person interview, you want to be on time for a video interview. When your interview gets scheduled, that is when you need to start preparing. Do you have the proper equipment for the interview? A webcam, a microphone? Make sure they are both in working order and you know how to use them. Next, you want to make yourself very familiar with the platform the employer is going to be using. Will the interview be over Skype, maybe Zoom, or Google Hangouts? There are lots of different platforms out there that can host video interviewing, so you want to make sure you can access and use the technology that the employer is using. You should not have to pay to access any platform the employer is using, and they should send you an interview confirmation with the details of how to access the call. Maybe you have a room code you have to type in, or you will have to join the call by clicking on a link. There are lots of different possibilities. That is why you should review all the information and make sure when the time for your scheduled interview arrives, you know exactly how to access the call and everything is in working order. One of the first things an employer may ask you is, tell me about yourself. Do you know how you will respond? If you don't, it's a good idea to come up with a plan of how you will answer the question. Make sure you keep it strictly professional. This is a great time to talk about your career progression or education, maybe even a little into why you are interested in the position. This is not the time to talk about how many kids you have or your relationship status. Be ready to show how your skills and abilities align with the position when answering questions. You want to be able to cite real-life examples of how you handle different situations. Be a storyteller. Illustrate your past work history, different projects, and examples of your strengths. It would be to your advantage a couple days before the interview to write down some real-life examples of your work. A big project you completed that was recognized by your organization, a time you faced adversity but made it through. Thinking back on examples when you aren't on the clock under pressure will allow you to recall them easier once the interview begins. We talk about limiting distractions during an in-person interview. This is no different when doing a video interview. Technical difficulties can be a distraction, and if the interviewer is on a strict schedule, having all the kinks worked out in advance helps to keep things on schedule. Also, when it comes to distractions, being at home can come with its own set of barriers. Barking dogs, loud kids that need attention, while all very normal, it'll be important to limit the distractions as much as possible. It would be a good idea to find a nice quiet corner of the house where you can lock yourself away free from all major distractions. Just make sure your internet connection is strong and working. This may mean you have to limit other members of your house from streaming content while you are on the call. Try to make sure your background is clean and neat. You don't want the interviewer distracted by a pile of unfolded clothes or unwashed dishes. It would be a good idea to hold the interview in a space you know you have control over. For example, if you decide to do an interview in a coffee shop, keep in mind you can't control other patrons or who walks behind you while on your interview. This is an uncontrolled environment. If you happen to have a home office with a door that closes, this is an example of a more controlled environment. Although even if we are at home, that doesn't mean we have 100% control over our environment, but we do have more control than if we were at a coffee shop or restaurant. The more you can control distractions, the better off you will be. Sometimes things may happen that are out of your control. If they do, that's okay. Just keep going and know it wasn't for lack of trying. Let's talk about dressing the part. Dressing appropriately in an in-person interview is a common topic, and a video interview is no different. Even though the employer may only see your top half, it'll be a good idea to dress professionally from head to toe. Looking the part can help you feel the part. Try to avoid anything that draws too much attention. Skip the bold makeup and jewelry. Make sure facial hair is trimmed and neat. It's also a good idea to look in the mirror before and make sure everything is in place. No spinach in your teeth or makeup smeared on your face. Body language is very important during a video interview. First, make sure you sit up straight with both feet planted firmly on the ground. Next, smile. Your tone is very different when speaking with a scowl on your face versus smile. Even if an interviewer is unable to see your face, we still recommend smiling because it will come across in tone. Pay attention to your screen and acknowledge you are listening. Don't look away from the camera and start doing something else while the interviewer is talking. This comes across as rude and that you aren't really interested in the conversation. Sometimes video interviews can experience a bit of lag time, so you should make sure your interviewer is done talking before you begin to answer their questions. This helps for a smoother process. It is inevitable. Talking over someone in a video interview will probably happen once or twice, but the more you can do to minimize it, the better. When the employer is done with the interview, you want to make sure that you end the interview appropriately. Make sure to thank the interviewer for their time and be sure you have their contact information in case any other questions come up. Follow up the same way you would as an in-person interview. Send a quick email to the person that interviewed you, thanking them for their time and reiterating any interest you may have in the position. With the advancement of technology, the process of job search and interviewing is changing rapidly. It is important to make sure you keep up with the times and are able to adapt to the changing landscape. Ohio Means Jobs hopes you will use this online workshop as a resource if you have an online interview coming up. Thank you and good luck in your job search.